The sky of Velara was green and always moving. The clouds shimmered like slow waves, and tall trees with silver leaves stood like towers in one of the city's largest homes. A respected Velari elder named Mirel stood at her window. Her long fingers tapped the glass. She was not watching the sky. She was thinking. Behind her, her daughter Ari paced across the floor. Her steps were slow but tense. She stopped and looked at her mother with narrowed eyes. "You already gave them your word?" Ari asked. "Yes," Mirel said without turning. "The agreement is final. You will marry the human." Ari's voice rose. "You said I would choose my own future." Mirel looked at her now. Her eyes were firm, not angry, but final. "And I said I would protect you. This marriage protects you." Ari walked to the center of the room. She had soft purple skin and small glowing lines across her arms, like all Velari. She was considered beautiful in her world, but her people saw her as broken. Since her teenage years, the doctors had told her she was infertile. The word had followed her everywhere at family meetings, social halls. Even in quiet conversations she wasn't meant to hear. She had learned to ignore it. She had built walls around herself. Now her own mother had used that word to make a deal. "You think no one else will ever take me," Ari said. "So you gave me to a human." "I gave you to safety," Mirel replied, "and more. This is not only about you. It helps all of us. The humans wish for peace. In this marriage, this joining will be a symbol for both sides." Ari turned away. She felt small and tired. Far away, on the other side of the city, a human man named Tom arrived at a tall Velari building. He carried his bag on one shoulder and held a tablet in his hand. He was a repair technician, part of Earth's peace team, sent to work on shared systems between humans and Velari. Tom was average in size, with short brown hair and calm eyes. He had never been in a diplomatic arrangement before, but when his commander had told him the Velari had requested a marriage for peace, and his name had been chosen, he had not refused. Now, he stood before a group of Velari elders. One of them read the terms of the agreement in both languages. Another gave him a pendant half of a circle. They said Ari would wear the other half. "You must treat her with care," one elder said. "She is not like human women. She may not speak as you expect." Tom nodded. "I understand." He didn't understand much, but he was willing to try. Later that evening, Tom stood in a room filled with pale blue lights and soft music. A group of Velari stood on one side. A few humans stood on the other. At the center, Tom waited. Then the doors opened. Ari walked in. She wore a traditional Velari robe, long and flowing like water. Her face showed no emotion. She did not look at Tom. She only stepped beside him and stood still. The ceremony was quiet. A Velari speaker gave the joining words. The humans repeated them. Ari and Tom were handed their pendants. When they touched the two halves together, a light passed between them. They were now husband and wife. Tom tried to smile at her. Ari looked at him, nodded once, and walked away. In the days that followed, Tom moved into the guest side of Mirel's home, where Ari lived. The rooms were clean and quiet, filled with strange shapes and soft lights. Tom kept to himself. He worked during the day and returned without noise. Ari ignored him. She ate in a different room. She left before he woke up. She answered his questions with one word. Tom was not upset. He had read the reports. He knew she had not chosen this. He also knew what it felt like to be unwanted, so he gave her space. But he noticed small things. She left extra towels near his room. She moved her books when he needed the table. She never locked the door between their spaces. She was not kind, but she was not cruel either. One afternoon, Tom was working on a broken light panel in the hall. A short power surge shocked his hand, and he let out a small shout. Ari, passing by, paused. "You should shut off the side current first," she said. "I thought I did," he replied, shaking his hand. She stepped closer. "This model has two lines. One is hidden." He looked at her, surprised. "Thanks, I didn't know." She turned to go, then paused. "Next time, wear gloves." That was the first time she had given him advice. The next evening, Tom sat outside near the tall silver trees. Ari came out and stood nearby. She didn't speak at first. Then she asked, "Why did you agree to this?" Tom thought for a moment. "I don't know. I guess I didn't want to be the one to say no. I didn't want to insult your people." Ari looked up at the sky. "Did you expect something else?" He shook his head. "I expected you to hate me." She looked at him now. Her face was unreadable. "I don't hate you." They sat in silence for a while. A wind moved through the trees. The silver leaves made a sound like chimes. "I don't like this arrangement," Ari said finally. "But I see that you're not trying to hurt me." "I'm not," Tom said. She stood. "Good." Then she walked back inside. Tom stayed for a moment, looking up at the green sky. Something had changed. The days after their short talk passed more quietly. Ari still kept her distance, but she no longer avoided Tom. She now spoke when needed. Her voice remained calm, but something had softened. Tom noticed that she sometimes watched him from across the room. Not long, just a few seconds, but he saw it. He didn't ask questions. He didn't try to change things fast. He only continued living politely, working on the systems, and fixing what broke inside the large Villari home. Every now and then, he left a fresh fruit or small gift from Earth outside her door. She never commented, but the gifts never stayed there long. One morning, a call came from the outer station. Ari's old transport flyer had malfunctioned during her visit to the Central Archives. She had just taken off for home when the engine failed mid-flight. The flyer dropped quickly, smoke trailing behind. Tom was nearby at the service dock when he saw the small flyer falling. He didn't wait. He ran to a nearby hoverbike and raced toward the trees. As he followed the smoke, his hands tightened around the controls. He didn't know what he would find. He reached the crash site in minutes. The flyer had landed sideways in a clearing. Its wing was broken, and sparks shot from the rear. Tom jumped off the bike and ran to the door. "Ari," he called from inside. He heard a soft reply. He pulled open the hatch and saw her pressed against the side wall. She looked dazed but awake. "Can you move?" he asked. She nodded. Her head was bleeding slightly. He reached in, helped her out, and walked her away from the smoke. They sat by a fallen log. She held her arm and looked away. Her voice was quiet. "You came fast." "I was nearby," Tom said. "I saw it falling." She looked at him. "I didn't expect anyone." "I'm glad I was there," he said. She didn't reply, but she didn't pull away either. Later that evening, Tom helped her inside the house. The Villari healer checked her and said her arm was only bruised. Her head needed light treatment. Ari thanked the healer, then sat alone in the resting room. Tom entered after a moment. He placed a warm cup beside her. She looked up. "You don't have to do this." "I know," he said. "I want to." She picked up the cup and held it. The room was quiet. Soft light filled the corners. "You didn't leave when I ignored you," Ari said. "I figured you had reasons," Tom replied. "I thought this marriage would make me feel weaker." She said, "But I'm beginning to feel strange. Not weaker, just unsure." Tom didn't move closer. He only listened. She placed the cup down. "People have always looked at me like I failed. I'm not what they wanted. I never thought that." Tom said, "You didn't even know me, but now I do, and I don't think anything is wrong with you." She looked at him, and this time her expression was softer. She stood up and walked to the balcony. Tom followed but kept a little distance. The air outside was cool. The sky was turning purple with the Villari sunset. "You don't act like the others," Ari said. "What do you mean?" "You don't try to prove anything. You don't try to control. You're just calm." Tom smiled. "That's just who I am." Ari turned slightly. "You're strange. I've been told that before," he said. She looked down at the small pendant hanging around her neck. It matched the one Tom wore. She touched it gently, then said, "Maybe strange isn't bad." That night, she didn't eat in the other room. She joined him at the center table. They shared a quiet meal. In the following days, things shifted slowly. Ari no longer avoided Tom's questions. She answered with more words, sometimes even asked questions back. She wanted to know how human cities looked, how water felt in the oceans of Earth, and what colors the Earth's sky turned during storms. Tom told her everything. He was not a poet, but his words painted honest pictures. Ari began to enjoy the stories. She showed him parts of Villari culture too. She explained how their trees connected through light roots, and how music was once used to calm windstorms. She shared the meaning of her name. It came from an old Villari word for silent star. One afternoon, Tom tried one of the local fruit dishes Ari liked. His face twisted at the bitter taste. Ari saw it and, for the first time since their joining, she laughed. It was a small laugh, but real. She looked at him and said, "You humans have no idea what good flavor is." "We're still learning," Tom replied. Their conversations became easier. The house felt warmer. Ari still spent hours alone, reading or walking, but now she sometimes invited Tom to join. One evening, he was working on a broken tablet screen. When she sat beside him without a word, she watched his hands move over the device. "You fix things well." "I try," he said. "I've always liked making broken things work again." She looked at him, eyes thoughtful. "I was broken once," she said. Tom paused, then looked at her. "I don't see any brokenness." She turned her face away, but her voice was quiet. "They said I could never carry life, that I would never be chosen, that I was born wrong." Tom placed the tablet down. "They were wrong to say that." Ari looked at him again. Her eyes were clear now. "Why do you care so much?" she asked. He thought for a moment. Then he said, "Because you're not just someone's daughter or someone's symbol. You're a person. And I see you." Ari said nothing, but that night, when she walked past his room, she paused and left a soft folded cloth on his table. Inside was a hand-carved wooden figure of a silent star. The air outside had grown cooler as Villara entered its long dusk season. Silver leaves on the trees began to fall softly, and the skies turned deeper shades of green and blue inside the house. Things were changing to Ari had started speaking. More, not just replies, real thoughts, opinions, stories. Tom listened carefully. He didn't interrupt her. He didn't try to solve everything. He simply let her speak. One evening, Ari walked into the shared study room and saw Tom fixing the small heating unit. He had oil on his hands and a focused look on his face. She sat on the edge of the seat. "You enjoy repairing things?" Tom smiled a little. "It gives me peace. I like when things work again." She nodded. "Most Villari would simply replace a broken part. You fix it instead." "Maybe I'm just stubborn." He said, "Maybe that's a good thing." She replied. A small silence passed between them. Then she asked, "Do you miss Earth?" Tom wiped his hands with a cloth. "Sometimes. I miss the sea. I miss how the air smells near the forest where I grew up. But being here, it feels important." Ari tilted her head. "Why?" He looked at her. "Because you're here." She did not look away. Her face stayed calm, but her eyes seemed to soften. "Is this how humans speak to women they like?" She asked. Tom looked down. "I don't know. Maybe I'm not saying it right. You said it simply." I understood. That night, after their usual quiet meal, Ari stood beside the balcony. Tom was about to walk away when she said, "Wait." He turned back. She stepped closer. "Do you remember when I said I felt unsure?" "Yes, I still feel that way. But now it doesn't feel like fear. It feels like something else." Tom didn't speak. He waited. Ari reached out and touched his hand. Her touch was light, almost unsure, but she did not pull back. "I've never wanted this kind of connection before, but now I wonder if something new is waking inside me." Tom's voice was quiet. "It's waking inside me too." They stood close, their hands together. No music, no ceremony, just the wind moving through the silver trees outside. Ari leaned forward and placed her forehead gently against his. In Villari culture, that was the oldest sign of trust. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a warmth. A spark. In the weeks that followed, the bond between them grew. They spent more time together. Ari showed Tom the quiet parts of Villari gardens where the air held natural music. Tom taught her Earth games using simple dice and tiny carved stones. They laughed more. They spoke more. The walls between them had fallen, not suddenly, but piece by piece, like old ice melting in the sun. One day, Ari placed her hand on Tom's and said, "I never thought I would feel something like this." "I didn't either," he said. That night, as they rested beside each other under the soft glow of ceiling lights, Ari turned to him. "What happens now?" "We live," Tom said. "We continue." Ari smiled gently. "Then let's continue." But soon after, something strange began. Ari felt tired during the day. She needed more sleep. Her sense of smell changed. Simple scents made her pause. Some foods no longer tasted the same. She didn't speak of it at first. She thought it was the season or maybe the emotion. She had never allowed herself to feel so deeply before. But her body was doing things she could not explain. One morning, she stood in front of the mirror and saw a faint mark across her lower skin. It looked like an old pattern, Valari markings. From ancient times. She touched it, and she felt something move inside her. Not a sickness, not pain, just motion. Her heart beat faster. She sat down quickly and closed her eyes. Later that day, she visited the small medical room inside the station. She told the system to run a private scan. No alerts, no public records. The machine hummed quietly. The screen blinked. Then it showed a result. Ari froze. The message was simple. One life form detected. Early growth confirmed. She stared at the words. The machine did not lie. Its data was checked 10 times. It was trusted across 3 worlds. But this could not be right. She had been tested all her life. Every result had said the same thing. No possible child. No active signals. No chance. Yet here it was. She walked out of the room slowly. Her hand shook slightly. Her legs felt heavy. She reached the quiet side of the garden and sat beneath the listening tree. Tom found her an hour later. He knew something was wrong the moment he saw her face. He sat beside her. "What happened?" She turned her face toward him. Her voice was quiet. "I'm pregnant." Tom's breath caught. "Are you sure?" She nodded slowly. The skin said it clearly. "A new life is growing inside me." Tom sat back. His mind raced. "But they told you?" "I know," she said. He looked at her again. "Do you believe it?" "I do. I feel it. Something inside me is changing." Neither of them spoke for a while. The leaves above them swayed gently. The air carried a strange calm. Ari placed her hand over her middle. "I don't know how this is possible, but I don't feel afraid." Tom held her hand. "Whatever this is, we'll face it together." Ari leaned against him. "Maybe we were never meant to be just a symbol for peace. Maybe we were meant to be something more," he replied. That night, she sat with him on the rooftop, under the deep blue sky. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her other hand touched her stomach gently. The stars above seemed brighter than usual. Ari stood at the edge of the clear water pool in the garden, watching her reflection. Her hand rested over her lower stomach, the place where something new was growing. She still could not believe it, even after checking the scan 3 more times. It was real. Life was growing inside her. She touched her face gently and whispered, "Why now? Why with him?" Behind her, Tom watched from a short distance. He didn't want to disturb her thoughts. He had been quiet since she shared the news, not because he didn't care, but because the moment felt so large, so full of meaning. It was hard to find the right words. Finally, he stepped closer. Ari turned toward him. Her eyes looked calm, but he could sense the storm behind them. "Are you scared?" Tom asked. "Yes," she said, "but not in the way I thought I would be." Tom walked to her side and looked down at the water. The soft reflection of both of them floated gently in the ripples. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "I'm thinking about my mother," Ari said. "She won't believe it." "She might not," Tom replied. "But the truth doesn't need her belief to exist." Ari looked at him. "I want to wait before telling anyone. Just a little longer." Tom nodded. "We'll wait." Over the next days, Ari's body continued to change. Her senses sharpened. Her sleep became deeper. At times, She felt lightheaded or emotional. Some smells brought her strong feelings, even tears. She wasn't sure if it was physical or something deeper. One morning, she stood near the sunlight window and placed her hand over her chest. She could feel two heartbeats now. One was hers. The other was smaller, softer, but steady. Tom entered and saw her standing still. "Is everything all right?" he asked. She smiled gently. "The baby's heartbeat. I can feel it now." He stepped closer. "May I?" Ari took his hand and guided it to her stomach. For a few seconds, he felt nothing. Then a soft thump, followed by another. His eyes widened. "That's real," he whispered. Ari nodded. "It's more than real. It's part of us." They stayed that way for a while, just listening. But the quiet didn't last. Mirelle arrived without warning. She entered the home with her usual grace, her robes trailing behind her, her eyes sharp as always. When she saw Ari sitting with Tom, something in her face tightened. "You've been silent," Mirelle said. "Too silent." Ari stood slowly. "I've been resting." Mirelle looked her up and down. "Your energy feels different. What are you hiding?" Ari took a deep breath. She had not planned to say anything yet, but her mother's presence pushed the moment forward. "I'm pregnant," Ari said. The room fell silent. Mirelle's eyes blinked once, then again. "That's not possible." "I thought so too," Ari replied. "But it happened." Mirelle stepped closer. "How?" Ari's voice stayed steady. "I don't know, but the scans are clear. The heartbeat is strong, and I can feel the child inside me." Mirelle turned to Tom. Her expression was unreadable. "You," she said. "What did you do?" "I didn't do anything special," Tom replied calmly. "We simply cared for each other. Maybe that was enough." Mirelle's gaze returned to Ari. She stepped back and sat down slowly, as if her legs could no longer carry the weight. "I spent my life protecting you from pain," Mirelle whispered. "I told myself you would never feel the pain of loss because you would never carry the burden of life." Ari walked to her mother's side. "You also kept me from hope." Mirelle looked up. Her eyes were misty now. "I thought I was doing the right thing." Ari nodded. "I know. But the truth found its own way." Mirelle closed her eyes. She did not speak again that day. The news spread faster than expected. Ari's medical records, though marked private, had triggered a small alert in the system. Velari scientists requested access. Human researchers asked questions. The idea of a natural pregnancy between Velari and human was not only rare, it had never been confirmed before. Ari refused the tests. She told them all, "This is not your experiment. This is my child." Tom stood beside her every time. Some voices rose in fear. Some elders spoke of risk, of danger, of unknown results. Others whispered words like miracle and turning point. Ari stayed quiet in public, but alone with Tom, she spoke freely. "I didn't ask for this attention," she said. "All I wanted was peace." Tom held her hand. "Then hold onto it. This child is not theirs. It's ours." Ari smiled softly. "I'm glad it's with you." One night, Ari had a dream. She stood in a field of soft grass. The sky was full of stars, closer than ever before. In her arms, she held a small child. The child had light purple skin and soft brown eyes. She looked up at Ari and smiled. A voice in the dream said, "She will carry both worlds. She will teach what love truly means." When Ari woke, tears ran down her face. She reached for Tom and whispered, "I saw her. I saw our daughter." From that day forward, Ari changed. She walked stronger. She spoke louder. She told the researchers they would not control her story. She told the elders they had no right to speak about a child they had not welcomed. Even Mirelle began to watch her differently. "You look taller than before," she told Ari one day. "I feel taller," Ari replied. The two women sat together beneath the silver trees. For the first time in many years, they spoke without weight between them. Mirelle said, "Maybe I was wrong to control your path." Ari looked at her. "Maybe this was the only way I would find my real path." Mirelle reached for her hand. "You are stronger than I thought." "I'm stronger because I'm not alone." Ari said. And in that moment, mother and daughter finally understood each other. The sun rose gently over the quiet hills of Villara. The light moved through the silver trees and touched the tops of the tall homes. Inside one of those homes, Ari stood in front of a wide mirror. She looked at her reflection in silence. Her stomach was now round. Her skin glowed slightly, not in a bright way, but soft and warm. The light patterns along her arms were stronger. Her eyes seemed deeper, as if they held more than just sight. Her body was no longer her own. It carried something precious. She rested her hands over her belly. She could feel movement now. Small, soft kicks. Life was no longer a hidden idea. It was real, and it lived inside her. Tom entered quietly. He had learned not to break her still moments, but when Ari saw him, she smiled. She moved again, she said. He walked to her side. I never get tired of hearing that. Ari placed his hand over her belly. After a few seconds, there was a soft thump. Tom's eyes lit up. He didn't speak, but his expression said everything. I think she likes the sound of your voice, Ari said. Tom laughed. She already has good taste. Outside their home, news had spread far. Villari leaders were still confused. Some called it a mistake. Others called it a miracle. Scientists asked for more tests. Doctors from Earth sent messages offering support. But Ari said no to all of them. This is not a science project, she told them. This is my family. Some accepted her words, others didn't, but Ari stood firm. Mirel remained silent after their last talk. She had returned to her home, but sent no messages. Ari wasn't surprised. Her mother needed time, but time had its own plan. One morning, the housekeeper announced that Mirel had arrived. Ari was resting in the reading room when the door opened. Mirel stepped in, wearing her traditional long robe, the one she used only for private family visits. She looked at her daughter for a long moment. Her eyes didn't move. Her mouth didn't speak. Then her gaze slowly dropped to Ari's stomach. Ari stood up. Neither woman spoke. Then Mirel took a slow breath and stepped forward. Her hand moved gently, not to touch, just to gesture. So, she said quietly, it is true. Ari nodded. Yes, I didn't want to hide it from you. Mirel's eyes were full of thought. I told myself it was not possible. I told myself the machines must be wrong, that your hope would bring only pain. Ari looked into her mother's eyes. Hope did bring pain, but it also brought something else. This child is not here by mistake. Mirel stepped even closer. How do you feel? Tired, Ari said. And scared sometimes, but stronger than I've ever felt. Tom entered the room quietly and paused when he saw Mirel. She looked at him. Tom gave a small, respectful nod. Elder, Mirel did not reply at first. Then she said, you look different from when I first saw you. Tom smiled lightly. A lot has changed. Mirel looked at Ari again. May I sit? Ari nodded. The three of them sat in silence for a moment. Then Mirel spoke. Our people have a word for this. It means a truth that was hidden until the right season. That is what you are now. You were always more than what the tests said. Ari felt tears rise in her eyes. She didn't want to cry, but she didn't stop them. Mirel continued. I fear that if I let you believe in too much, you would fall too far. But I see now, you've risen. Ari took her mother's hand. I needed your guidance, but I also needed my own steps. Mirel squeezed her hand, and you've taken them well. The days that followed were calm. Mirel began visiting more often. She brought quiet gifts, a warm wrap made from moon fiber, a carved pendant with Ari's family symbol, and a soft blanket she had kept from Ari's childhood. Tom watched from a distance. He saw the way Mirel looked at Ari now, not with pity, not with fear, but with something close to pride. One afternoon, as Tom worked outside repairing a light pole, Mirel walked up to him. He stood and wiped his hands. Mirel said, you were chosen as part of an agreement, a deal between species. Tom nodded. Yes, but what grew from it was not planned, she said. No, Tom agreed. But I'm glad it happened. Mirel looked up at him. You treat my daughter gently. You give her space and strength. And now, you have given her something no one else could. Tom looked away for a moment. Then back at her, she gave it to herself. I just stayed beside her. Morel's lips formed the smallest smile. That was enough inside the house. Ari sat near the music wall. She placed her hand over one of the panels, and soft notes filled the air. Velari music was not loud. It flowed like wind. She closed her eyes and let it move around her. She remembered her dream, the field, the stars. The child in her arms died was coming closer now. That night, she and Tom sat beneath the open sky. Stars moved slowly above them. Tom asked, "Have you thought of a name?" Ari nodded. "Lena?" Tom smiled. "What does it mean?" In Old Velari. "It means light between two worlds." He looked at her and whispered, "Perfect." The wind was soft that morning. The sky above Velara was calm and clear, with thin white clouds drifting slowly across. It had been weeks since Morel's first visit, and the quiet between mother and daughter had turned into daily talks and gentle care. Inside the home, Ari was lying on the rest chair, her hands folded on her belly. She looked peaceful, but her breath was deeper than usual. She turned slightly and closed her eyes again. Tom sat nearby, reading messages from Earth. He noticed a change in her face. He stood up and walked closer. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. Ari opened her eyes. Her voice was low. "I think it's starting." Tom froze for a second, then stood straighter. "Now," she nodded. "The time has come. It's not sharp pain, but it's there." Tom pressed a signal button on the wall. A soft green light blinked. Help would come. Ari was already prepared. Everything they needed was ready in the room. They had built for this moment. Morel arrived within minutes. Her robe flew behind her as she moved quickly into the house. One look at Ari told her everything. She took her daughter's hand and whispered, "You are strong. You've already done the impossible. This last part is just the doorway." Ari smiled faintly. "Then I'll step through it." The home filled with quiet action. A doctor from Velara and a helper from Earth entered the room. They spoke in calm voices. Ari nodded to them. Tom stayed near her, holding her hand. Hours passed slowly. The light in the room dimmed and rose again as the sun moved across the sky. Ari's breathing changed. Her body worked hard, but her mind stayed focused. She didn't cry out. She didn't ask for help. She only held Tom's hand tighter each time the wave of pain came. Morel sat on the other side, whispering small words in their home language, words of strength, words that mothers once said to daughters during ancient times. Then, as the stars began to show outside the windows, a sound filled the room, a soft, clear cry. The doctor looked up with a calm smile. "She's here." Ari's eyes filled with tears. Tom stood frozen for a moment. Then he stepped forward. The doctor placed the small child into Ari's arms. She was wrapped in a light cloth. Her skin had a soft blue tone from her Velari blood, but her face had clear earth features too. Her small hands moved gently, and her cry slowly faded into a quiet sound like humming. Ari looked down and whispered, "Lena." Tom leaned close. He didn't speak. His eyes were full of wonder. Morel covered her mouth. Her heart felt like it was glowing inside her chest. She had feared so much, but now she saw what her daughter had become. A mother, a miracle, a bridge between two worlds. That night, no one in the house slept much. Lena rested in a warm pie beside Ari. The lights in the room were soft, and the air smelled of healing leaves. Tom sat beside them, watching every small move Lena made. Morel stood near the window, looking out at the stars. Ari turned her head. "You can hold her, if you want." Morel turned. "She should be with you." "She will be," Ari said. "But she's your granddaughter too." Morel stepped closer and gently picked up the child. She held her close to her heart. "She's warmer than I expected," she said quietly. And her eyes, Ari nodded. They opened a little earlier. One is blue like Tom's, the other is pale silver. Morel looked down at the tiny face, a perfect mix. Tom watched the two of them. He felt something inside himself change. He was no longer just part of an agreement. He was a father, and he had two families now, one from Earth and one from Velara. He stood and walked outside into the cool night. The stars above looked clearer than ever before. He raised his hand and touched the tree beside the door. The leaves moved gently in the wind. A new chapter had begun. News spread fast through Velara. Scientists asked questions again. Reporters requested interviews. Leaders from Earth sent messages of joy and surprise. But Ari said no to all of it. She wanted peace. She stayed home with Lena, walking through the garden each morning. The child grew quickly. Velari Earth children developed faster in their early months. Lena was already lifting her head and making soft sounds. One day, a message came from the Velari Council. They wanted to see the child, not for study, but for honor. They wanted to name her as a symbol of new hope. Mirel was surprised. They have never done that before. Ari thought for a long time. Then she said, only if she is treated as a person, not as a symbol or tool. Mirel agreed. I will speak for her. A ceremony was held in the Silver Hall. It was a quiet event filled with music and light. Ari and Tom walked in with Lena. Mirel stood with them. She wore a new robe, bright with family patterns. The leaders stepped forward. They did not ask questions. They only placed a small pendant around Lina's neck. This child, said the eldest speaker, is not only a bridge between two worlds. She is proof that sometimes our knowledge is smaller than life's power. We honor her not because she is different, but because she reminds us what is possible. Ari held her child close. Tom placed his hand on both of them. Mirel smiled, her eyes wet with quiet pride. Later that night, as they returned home, Ari sat near the window with Lena in her arms. Tom sat beside her. What are you thinking? Ari looked out at the stars. I'm thinking about how far we came. How something that started as a duty became something beautiful. Tom nodded. I still remember the first time we spoke. You didn't want to be near me. Ari smiled. You were strange. Still are. They both laughed softly. She is the future, Ari said. But we made her together. Not because we were told, but because we grew. Tom looked at Lena and said, and now she'll grow too. Ari nodded. With both our worlds behind her. The days turned into months. Lena grew quickly. Her laughter filled the home, and her tiny footsteps echoed in the hallway. Her hair was soft and silver blue, and her eyes sparkled with both curiosity and calm. Ari watched her daughter with quiet joy, and Tom carried her high into the air every morning just to hear her giggle. Mirel visited often. She sat with Ari in the garden, helping her teach Lena the old Velari songs. At night, Tom read stories from Earth. Lena listened carefully. Even though she didn't understand all the words yet, she was learning the languages at once. One day, while Ari was in the kitchen, Lena walked up to her and touched her hand. Mama, she said clearly. Ari turned slowly and looked at her daughter's face. Her eyes filled with tears. It was the first time Lena had spoken that word. She picked her up gently and held her close. The warmth in her chest was like fire, but soft and deep. Tom came in and saw them. He smiled, stepped closer, and kissed Lina's head. We did it, he said. The Council of Velar sent another message a few weeks later. They wanted Lena to attend a learning center for gifted children. The place was meant for Velari children who showed signs of early understanding. Lena, being part human, had grown faster in some ways. Ari was unsure. She is still too small, she said. Mirel shook her head. She is small, but her spirit is wide. Let her see the world. Let her make friends, Tom agreed. She should learn about both sides of who she is. After thinking deeply, Ari nodded. She prepared a small bag, kissed her daughter's forehead, and walked her to the silver gate of the center. Lena turned and waved. Mama, Papa. They waved back. It was hard to let her go, even for a few hours. Lena did well. She played with others, learned faster than anyone expected, and often helped her classmates. She used Earth words and Velari signs with ease. One teacher said she had the calm of her mother and the courage of her father, but not everyone was ready to accept her. Some Velari parents whispered. They said she was different. Some of their children repeated those words at home. One boy once told Lena, "You're not one of us." Lena came home quiet that day. She sat alone and didn't eat. Tom noticed first. "What's wrong?" he asked. She didn't speak. Ari sat beside her and gently touched her hair. "Did someone say something to you?" Lena nodded. Her voice was soft. "He said I'm not full. Not real." Ari closed her eyes for a moment. Then she took her daughter's hand. "You are more than full. You carry to lights. You walk to paths. That is rare. That is strong." Tom sat across from them. "And people fear what they don't understand. But don't let that fear live in you." Lena looked at both of them. "Will I always be different?" Mirel, who had entered the room quietly, answered, "Yes, and that is your power." Lena smiled again. Just a little. As seasons passed, Lena became known across Velara. She was the first of her kind, born from two worlds, raised by love and patience. Scientists no longer tried to test her. They simply watched, amazed by her growth. Artists painted her. Writers told her story. Ari and Tom kept her grounded. They did not let praise make her proud, and they did not let whispers make her sad. One day, Earth's council reached out. They wanted a special gathering between Earth and Velara, a friendship day. They asked if Lena would attend as a guest of honor. Ari was nervous. She's still young. But Lena heard the request and said, "I want to go." The trip was made. It was Lena's first time on Earth. The air was different. The gravity felt light. The people looked at her with surprise and wonder. At the event, Lena stood on a small stage with her parents beside her. She looked at the crowd and spoke in a calm voice. "My name is Lena. I am from both Earth and Velara. Some people call me different, but I believe I was born to help both sides understand each other better." There was silence. Then, slowly, the crowd began to clap, a standing wave of hands and smiles. Tom looked at Ari. "She's leading already." Ari smiled. "She's only beginning." Years passed. Lena became a voice for peace. Not through politics, not through force, but through understanding. She helped both worlds share knowledge, build projects, and respect each other's ways. When she turned 16, she stood in the same silver hall where she had once been honored as a baby. This time, she stood on her own feet, wearing a simple robe of both Earth and Velari color. The leaders came forward again, not to give her anything, but to ask, "Will you help guide the path ahead?" The speaker said. Lena looked out at the faces around her. She saw children. She saw old ones. She saw humans. She saw Velari. And she saw her parents sitting at the back, holding hands. She said one word. Yes. The hall filled with light and music. Ari sat with Tom on the balcony of their home that night. The stars were bright. The wind carried the soft voice of night birds. "She's grown," Tom said. "From the child we weren't sure would ever exist." Ari nodded. "And now she carries the hopes of two worlds." Mirel joined them with warm tea. "I once forced you to choose a path you didn't want," she told Ari. "But the path turned into a bridge, and the bridge became a home." Ari held Tom's hand. "She was never just a duty," she said. "She was always meant to be," Tom added, "and we were meant to find each other." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the world breathe. Above them, the stars watched quietly, and far below, Lena walked through a garden with two younger children, one Velari, one human, both laughing beside her as she told them a story about a girl who changed everything. And the girl in the story had silver blue hair and bright eyes.